Yeah, Hamilton's just been removed from my heart chakra. It was like another density of energy that's gone down to the side. Yeah, straight away my heart felt lighter, like there was a. Yeah, I've moved it to the side of my head. It's going to go down and get grounded. Yeah, I've just removed that energy about 5-10 minutes after coming to terms with everything. I felt it lift from my heart, and it's like a weight that's just gone, like a higher density of energy of ideology that's a load of bullshit, because ideologies are a load of bullshit to begin with. Yeah, it's been lifted, it's gone, which means that our process is going to help loads, because there's going to be less impeding the energy recognition. And the worrying thing is that if the Illuminati are the unwittingly mirror of the same thing of the Freemasons, i.e. they turn to the ego and then try and place themselves into an awoken new fresh ego of delusion rather than the old one, because that's what they end up doing, is they just recreate another ego and then make the same mistake again because they didn't fucking learn the first time. Anyway, point being, there is no point, it's a sphere, is that that's the other part of the other half of the process. So they get ideologized, and then it limits again from the same side, or opposite side of the coin, sorry, is they're the trauma mirror, because they're still in trauma, they just didn't go through their own healing process, so they're in denial of themselves, potentially because they had an awakening when they were already in fame, and then when it all hit home they had a spiritual awakening, and then they get indoctrinated into the Illuminati as a place to feel unity again, just like Freemasonry. It's another cult where people get lost and want to find unity because they are not in the situation of circumstance, or they haven't found the strength within themselves whereby they feel the true oneness. They feel again like they're detached, not realizing that the whole part of the spiritual awakening process is to shed all of the ego in the first place, and it's a fresh start. But instead they go down the route of recreating another fresh ego of importance, to try and re-establish the old lessons that they haven't obviously had time or situation or circumstance to learn from. So instead they get utilized as a mirror of the same mechanism, because then people ideologize them instead of facing themselves, their own traumas. So then they send the people in fame their traumas, which go into their ego as a coping mechanism, and then gets fed through the same mechanism. So they're spiritually weak. People in fame who don't meditate and are incapable of gauging these kind of conversations are spiritually weak, basically, and they need to realize that. And they need to not inflate their ego and go, oh, I'm important now, I've had a spiritual awakening, oh, now I'm going to put myself back into this another fucking system of stupidity, because they were unable to refine themselves properly. They jump back into the same bandwagon and then feel lost. And then they're stuck within a karmic cycle of the dark night of the soul. And that's what happened to the people in fame who have a spiritual awakening, join the Illuminati thinking that that's the next road to go, instead of finding faith within themselves. They feed back into the same mechanism, and they're in a continuation of what is known as the dark night of the soul, because they've put themselves into another paradoxical limitation. They've put themselves into a karmic cycle, lower frequency paradoxical, rather than finding the strength within themselves ignoring outside perspectives completely, which is what you need to actually do to become an actual fully fledged starseed. And yeah, they put themselves back in the same boat, rather than going through their own process and realizing that they're more, realizing that they're more important than their place in society. At the end of the day, if I could be a Formula One driver, if I had a spiritual awakening that was completely life-changing, I'd turn my back on it. Why? Because it's more important. Which is what they fail to gauge, because they let the situation of circumstance shroud their own growth process to begin with. So they're stuck in a karmic process which is known as the dark night of the soul, because they haven't freed themselves enough. They haven't allowed the situation of circumstance to change, because they're in control of it, not outside sources. They've put themselves back into a powerless position of allowing outside sources to control their own destiny, which is not them living their greatest truth. As much as they want to try, they're not really, are they? So they're stuck in that karmic cycle, because the dark night of the soul is all about sorting out the karmics. But if you're in fame and you've got hundreds of thousands or millions of people ideologizing you instead of finding their own faith and healing themselves, then you're in a continuation of karmic cycle, aren't you, with millions of people? So you get fucked, because you haven't found the wisdom in yourself to say goodbye to everything. You're still clinging on to outer perspectives of ideology rather than finding your own faith within yourself. And that's how it is.